Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the series of verbal reasoning sessions. Today, we are going to do a bit painful topic, which is strong and weak arguments. Now, I carefully use the word painful because it's not difficult, but it's painful. Painful not because it is really difficult to understand or it's really difficult to find answers to the questions. No, painful because there is a lot of subjectivity involved into these questions, and painful because accuracy hits and takes a back seat here. The two reasons why I consider these painful. However, rest assured, there'll be only a couple of questions that will be asked. Also, even if they asked, you will be better than your peers. That's what the value that I'm adding to this chapter. The agenda today is simple. We'll quickly look at what are the arguments, what are the concepts, and then solve certain 15 questions based on the concept that we quickly learn. So without much ado, let's get started, understand the pain of this chapter, and what are the tips and the techniques that we can apply, and the methods that specifically do's and the don'ts that we are supposed to do and what we're not supposed to do to find the correct answers. Let's get started with respect to understanding what are arguments. Now, arguments in generally in life, I perceive in life, or usually arguments are believed to be conflict of opinions and then opposing viewpoints. However, in the domains of philosophy, logic, law, or I term as formal logic as well, I say that in a logical universe, an argument is a composite structure. A structure based on premise and conclusions. I think I covered this in terms of my critical reasoning as well. So if you have not watched the video of critical reasoning, go and watch it before we get to this. So it's about understanding the components of an argument, in which in critical reasoning I told about that the most two important points of any argument is about understanding what is the claim the author is making, which is called as conclusion, and what is the premise or the evidence or the justification that is given. So the same thing is something that we're going to apply to understand these questions here. Conclusions will be the claims made by the author, backed up by the evidence that is provided, and the evidence is going to be the set of statements or justifications, which is going to be the premise. Now, why it's important to understand it like this? Because in our exams, the question is going to be like this. There will give you certain issue, a question or a conflict, which we have to take it as a claim. So author is trying to claim this, that, or is asking you that whether we should conclude this on the basis of what the arguments are. So he'll give you arguments which will be as the premises. So the premises given that yes, and we should do so, no, we should not do so, no, we should do so, yes, we should not do so, and so on and so forth. Both can be yes, both can be no as well. But usually a pair is about giving up upon yes or no, and then they give you a reason for it. They give options, typically saying that if first is strong but second is weak, then we are supposed to mark A. If the first is weak, second is strong, we are supposed to go with Bombay. If both of them are strong, we can go for C. And if both of them are weak or not strong, then we go for Delhi. Sometimes you might see that there is another option added, which will be that either of them, the E or option, either of them is true. So these are the 5 set of questions, but conventionally the 4 set of questions, which is basically making you understand that which is strong, which is weak, or sometimes they will not use the word strong, they can use the word forceful. So which of the argument is forceful, and how it is forceful is something that we're going to learn in today's session. So let's quickly look at it at an example, because this chapter is a method based chapter, and therefore there are no exact concepts but a particular methodology that we need to follow while approaching these questions. So let's look at a question. So if I just give a simple question saying that should ragging in colleges be banned, and I give 2 arguments, saying the first that yes, it causes mental trauma to students and they have been reported to commit suicides due to it, while the second one says it's a way of interaction between seniors and freshers which helps them to know each other better and which in turn is beneficial for students in their college life. Now, I'm sure if these two arguments are given and I ask, you should mark A if only one is strong, second is weak, B if only second is strong, first is weak, C if both are strong, and D if both of them are weak. I'm sure you can take a pause of this and find out what is the correct answer. I believe you will go with A. Majority of the people pick answer as A, which becomes a problem. The correct answer to this question is going to be C. How? Now, some of you might definitely raise a bro and say that, what? I can't agree that, this can be a strong argument. So let me just give you a simple understanding that if we look at it from life, if we look at it from reality, I think the assumptions, the arguments that will impose reality will be acceptable. However, if we stop doing that and we start to see the logical evaluation of the arguments and we consider them to be premises or the evidences, the reality will not play a significant role into it. However, we have to evaluate the criteria, but I don't think reality is going to be a very significant factor. Hence, I do it like this, that if this is true, so let's say if true, give sufficient enough ground to actually ban this activity. And I think, yes, if this is true, this definitely gives quite a good enough reason to ban this activity, and therefore this argument becomes strong. And again, if this true, so you have to believe the premises to be true. If true, then is it not a good enough reason to not ban it? So I think then in this case, if you're projecting it as that it is beneficial activity for students in their college life, then it should not be banned, right? And in that case, we judge that both the arguments become strong. Now, some of you might again be conflicting that what is wrong with this guy here? He's going to make us believe that ragging is a good activity now. No. See, ragging, if I have my own opinion at it, I will definitely still stay and say that this is the correct answer because I feel it is strong. But judging it logically with the structures that I just gave you as an argument, so it's a strong opinion, but not a strong argument. So with respect to judgment of argument, whether it is strong, I think both of them, without conflicting between each of them, quite on their own give you a good enough reason to ban and not ban it. And that is the good enough reason for me to decide whether the argument becomes strong or forceful. Now, I'm sure that you might have create a problem for it. So this is one trick that you can apply. You can just cancel the word ragging and say that, okay, should activity ABC be banned? So I don't know now. My own personal biases will not happen or come into way when I decide activity XYZ, because activity ABC is something that I have no idea upon. And now if you consider this, I think both will now be neutral and can be considered as the correct answers. So this is what you have to do, and this is where this chapter becomes a bit painful, because you have to keep your emotional compass as a very low, and you have to again understand them as a rational aspect and the rationality of what we have to appear for. So here is a do's and don't list, which I just like to spend some time. For example, in the don'ts, we should always try to say, do not compare the arguments against one another. Why? Because if I would have done this, I would always fall for the stronger argument. Okay, the stronger argument, because I will always say that, okay, the first one makes more sense with B, and I don't have to do this. So never compare arguments with themselves. Rather, I've just written that evaluate them against the issue. Why? Because you have to go back and see that if this is true, whether this makes sense to this, and if this is true, this makes sense to this or not. So if you start to do the strong and weak arguments this way, I think you'll have a greater accuracy than your peers. The next don't be biased or opined, because you will create a problem, because you will not agree to the second perspective, or you will not have a neutral or a fair viewpoint to the second opinion. So do not be biased or opined. Do not emotionally, sentimentally judge them. Try to just look at the rational aspects of them. Therefore, logically judge them, evaluate the rationale. I've just given another very important point. Try not to agree or disagree with them. That is, don't support or attack the argument. For example, if I just attack this argument and say there can be many other ways, I think I'm now attacking the argument because I don't agree with this opinion. Right. So do not try to agree or disagree. Similarly, do not try to support or attack any particular argument. And the last very important point, that don't assume too much or everything. Look for the justifications provided, not assumed. So what do I mean by this? Now, in this line, for example, if I would have just deleted this line and said, knowing each other better, full stop. Okay, I would have just cancelled this one. Now, then the argument becomes, no, it's a way of interaction between seniors and freshers, which helps them to know each other, full stop. Problem happens that knowing each other is a good exercise or a bad exercise is my assumption then. I hope. Why assumption? Because what are assumptions? Assumptions are always the unstated ideas. I did the first video, the second video on assumptions. So I think just get that watched before if you're having a trouble understanding it out. But however, just for this lecture, I think just what is important is to understand that assumptions are anything that is not given or not stated. So justification provided, that is justification stated and not assumed. Okay, that is one thing that we need to keep in mind. Now, this is the do's and the don'ts. So what we are supposed to do, how we are supposed to judge it. Give it a very simple criteria. There are only three things that you need to look at. So I have a mnemonic for this after the the Oscar nomination. I've just converted into RRR, which is relevance, relation, and rationalization. These are the 3 pointers on which we will try to judge any particular argument, any particular premise that they give us. How? If any argument, any premise talks about major relevance, it is strong, or it talks about a direct relation, it is strong. However, what makes them weak? If something is covered in a trivial or a minor relevance and also lacks justification, it is not justified properly, then it is weak. So just because somebody is talking about the relevant point doesn't make it a weak point. You have to also look that additionally he or she would have not justified it as well. Similarly, if anybody talks about indirect things and also forgets to link them, the link is not being made to the particular aspects of it, I think then in this both cases the argument will become weak. So what we need to keep in mind, I'll just give you examples for it, but please remember that the argument is, if justified properly, even if it's covered a minor or a trivial relevance, and if it is properly rationalized, it might become a strong argument. And that's what the pain I was talking about in the very beginning of the session, that it's painful. It's not difficult, but it's painful because in that very short time limit, to think these things in their totality, not to miss anything, and then be accurate, staying accurate at it is kind of a big challenge. So rest assured, If your accuracy suffers, everybody's accuracy is going to fall for it. So don't feel pressured by this chapter. Hardly 3 or 4 questions are going to come. Even if you maintain and get a 50 plus 50% plus accuracy, I think it is going to do a fine job. So in today's exercise, even if you get some 7 or 8 questions correct out of the 15, I think you are on your way. You've understood the concept. Now let's look at it this way, the relevance, relation, and rationalization. So I've just taken up an example. For example, should children solve puzzles which excite their brain and are fun to do? Now you can pause the video here, try and evaluate A, B, C, D, and just try to give it a word as S, W, S, W. You think S for strong and W for weak. Try to do it mentally, and then I'll discuss and give you the answers for it. Okay, now read the question very carefully, because the statement is my claim and all the other things are my premises. So this is my premise 1, this is my premise 2, this is my premise 3, this is my premise 4. Now you say, yes, research has shown that children who solve puzzles do better at school, and I have to just check RRR. So I think, yeah, relevant, related, and rationalized. So it has research has shown. It's not that somebody is saying, it's research has shown that children who solve puzzles do better at school. So I think it talks about the major relevance. So the question is that should children solve puzzles which excite their brain and are fun to do? So should children solve it or not? That is the claim. So if this is true, I think this is definitely children should solve this. So it's definitely a strong argument. The second one, children tend to overdo it and get distracted from the schoolwork. Now this seems to be a very good opinion and a very true opinion. So if you agree to it, it will become strong. But if you evaluate it properly, you think that just because some people will overdo it and get distracted, therefore children should not solve puzzles only. Is this a good enough reason to just decide that children should not solve puzzles? I don't think so. So it is, I can say, related, partially related, it's relevant, it's partially related, and not rationalized, not at all rationalized. So this will become a weak argument. Why? Because you are not rationalizing it. However, if you would have rationalized it, saying something like, if you could have constructed the argument like this, that children being young have a great tendency to be addicted to such exercises and they might overdo it and get distracted from schoolwork or other work, then that case you're justifying your argument very properly, and therefore in that case it would have been a strong argument. Okay, let's evaluate the third one. No, many parents do not have time. I think children were supposed to solve puzzles, not parents. So neither relevant, nor related, nor rationalized. So definitely a weak argument. And so is the, yes, everyone likes smart children. I agree, that's a strong opinion, but not a strong argument. Again, neither relevant, nor related, nor rationalized, and definitely weak. So all you're supposed to do is just think upon relevance, relation, and justification. And I think you're on your way. So let's look at another question. Should one close relative of a retiring government employee be given his job in the government? The argument says, where else will the relative get like a job like this? I mean, very true, lol, but again, it's not relevant, not related. I think you should look at the criteria of job requirement and so on and so forth. So definitely neither related nor relevant, and definitely not justified or rationalized. It will close the doors of the government service to the competent and needy youth. So if this is true, should this happen? Absolutely not. So this is very relevant and very related and properly justified as well. So I think it will, if it will close the doors of the government services to the competent and needy youth, should we do it? Absolutely, you should not do it. And therefore this argument is a strong argument. So answer to this question will therefore become Bombay. So this is how we evaluate, guys. It's nothing as a rocket science here, but all you need to do is the issue and read the question very carefully. I've seen students making mistakes in not reading and interpreting the question correctly. They forget about the terms that are used. Okay, be very clear with this. Whatever is it answering the question completely. Check for relevance, relation, and rationale, the RRR, and then select the correct option. Think which is it is directly related and it is relevant to the issue, and is it properly rationalized or to the above issue or the conflict that is given to you. All right, so let's move to the next segment. Upon understanding the application of it, now here we see the option of either also. Sometimes either plays a significant role, usually in conflicting opinions. For example, a conflicting opinion, for example, both of them seems to be strong and both are conflicting each other. If this is done, this cannot be done, and if this is done, this cannot be done. In that particular scenarios, I believe you can definitely go for an either or. For example, I'll try to give you another verbal reasoning example. For example, if I say, should I go outside, and I say it will rain today, and I say it will not rain today. So I think should I do XYZ exercise because it will rain today, and it's an important exercise which depends upon the rain, let's say. So both of them become strong, okay, in their isolation. But if this happens, this can't happen, and if this happens, this can't happen. And then I've given an option like E, that if either of them are strong, I think we should definitely go for an either rather than both. However, if E was not given, I believe both the argument were strong enough, so we should have gone for C, because if your thing was rain dependent and you should do it, yes, you should do it, that because it will rain, and no, you should not do it because it will not rain. I think both of them make sense, but since they are conflicting with each other, I think if this option is given, you should go for it. However, in today's questions, I don't think this question is going to hit. We will see if there is a conflicting situation that arises, we'll definitely mark this. Otherwise, just learn the conventional options. A means only one is strong, B means only two is strong, C means both are strong, and D means neither of them are strong. So let's look at the application. I hope you've solved this sheet as a pretext, so I'm not going to give the details of it, but yes, I'm going to quickly give to the concepts and the answers of it. Should India make efforts to harness solar energy to fulfill its energy requirement? Yes, solar energy is the cheapest form of the energy, and most of the energy sources used at present are exhaustible. Now, majority, when I discuss these questions in the classes, most of the people answer it A. But A is wrong. I think the answer will go as Delhi. Both of them are weak. Why? See, just because it is cheap, should India make efforts? Did you say India is looking for their cheapest sources of energy, or we are looking for an affordable sources of energy? No. So we don't assume. Please remember, I told you, do not assume everything. Remember, look for justifications provided, not assumed. So you should not just assume. See, I'm going to believe whatever is written is true, but I'm going to evaluate. So I just evaluated this argument and said, just because it's cheap, should I make effort? I don't think so. You need to rationalize. You should say something like, India desperately needs the cheapest sources, or looking at the economic crisis that we are in, or looking at the economic slowdown that we are in, we should make efforts. I think justify it properly. So its relevance is misguided. So it's not relevant now. It's related, but it's not rationalized. Most of the energy sources used as present are exhaustible. I think, again, just because most energy sources used as present are exhaustible, should India make efforts to harness solar energy? Again, relevant ही नहीं है, neither rationalized है, और ये तो थोड़ा loose है relation में भी, because most of the energy sources will be always exhaustible. But you should tell me why we should harness. So give me a good reason, advantage or disadvantage of harnessing the solar energy. That would have made the argument strong and weak. So answer is Delhi. Let's move to the second. Should parents allow their children to keep mobile phone? Yes, because it is a useful communication device. Relevance. And parents can keep a touch, justified. So definitely a strong argument. It can divert their attention from studies. Strong opinion, but weak argument. Just because it can divert, children should not be allowed? Think it like that. I'm not attacking the argument. I'm not saying, no, it will not divert of every student. No. I'm saying just because it can divert, should children be, parents not allow their children? No, that doesn't seem a good enough rationalized reason. So, not rationalized and loosely related to it. I mean, not relevant. Okay. So, again, both of them, first of them strong, second is weak. Answer is A. Liberalization has been highly beneficial to Indian economy. He forgot the question mark. So that is what the discussion is, that we have to reach to the conclusion that has liberalization been beneficial, and that too has been highly beneficial to Indian economy. Now, just because customers have more choices and services to choose from, does that make it highly beneficial for Indian economy? I'm sure you will say no. So again, the argument is not rationalized, not relevant half of the part of it, because liberalization stands for having more choices, but not related. So weak. And then increasing competition has resulted in the loss of business of local players. But you forgot to say that local players played a very significant role in the Indian economy. You did not link it up. So it's relevant, it's related, but again, not justified. The link is not justified. It is picking up a trivial aspect of it. That just because certain people local players lost the game, can we say that liberalization has not been highly beneficial? No, we can't. And therefore, again, not justified properly. So Delhi, both the arguments are weak. Look at the fourth. Education must be made a prerequisite to run the elections in India. Very interesting question. That education, so the claim that we need to settle is that should education be made a prerequisite to run for elections of India? Yes, this would be highly helpful in electing only eligible and worthy politicians. So you are assuming that only education makes eligible and worthy politicians, right? This is not written. This is just assumed, because if it will help me electing only eligible and worthy politician, should education be made prerequisite? And I have a problem with the word only. I mean, if you say electing eligible and worthy politicians or filtering eligible and worthy politicians, I think that would have been a very good line. Not electing, but about filtering. Because it will give you certain assessment about it, a pre-assessment about what is going to be the qualification of a person. However, having a degree does not essentially mean that the candidate would be an effective and efficient politician. Hits the nail right at the head. I think that is very, very accurate. It pinches out the relevance and the relation of it. So therefore, a strong argument, but the first one is a weak, and therefore the answer to the fourth question will go as Bombay. The fifth one, should government impose restriction on the access of secret information by media? So secret information by media. So media should have access to the secret informations of the country or not, and whether government should impose restrictions on the secret informations of it or not. Yes, it cannot be said that media will use this information prudently. Prudently means wisely. So if it cannot be said whether we should we let them access it, I mean, obviously no. So should it impose restriction? Yes, it should, and therefore the argument is justified. So strong. Yes, secret information can be of strategic importance to the defense and the security of the country. Re-emphasizes the importance of secret information and why it is called secret. I mean, secret hai, isliye secret rakhna chahiye. So that's the reason why I believe the second also talks about relevance and relation of it, and therefore also a strong point. So both of them are strong, and therefore option should go as C, which says both of them are strong. Let's look at the sixth question. Should government provide free electricity? Should government provide free electricity? Now, no, it's not financially viable for the government to provide free electricity. So if this is true, should government do it? Absolutely no. Because if you cannot afford it, should you provide it? Definitely no. If you can't afford to, do XYZ, you should not do it. I mean, that's the logic. So very strong, because it is definitely relevant and related and properly justified. The current government came to power. So just because the current government came to power because it promised free electricity, should governments promise free electricity? I mean, not justified. Okay, weak because okay, I think relevant. ठीक है, I think not relevant but related because you should tell me the advantage and the disadvantage of giving the free electricity. I think you should put at points like it's a basic commodity. It should be termed as a basic commodity. It should be very fairly placed, or to certain poor people, it should be given free of cost. Absolutely correct. Then I would have you would have justified your argument and would have made it a very very valid point. So it's related but not justified and therefore weak. So answer is going to be definitely A, that the first makes sense. The seventh one, medical students should compulsorily serve in rural areas for the stipulated period of time before they are awarded a degree. So stipulated amount of time. Okay, not forever, stipulated amount of time. So read the question. Compulsory serve, number one, for a stipulated amount of time where the place is rural areas before they are awarded a degree, kind of interns, kind of compulsory training. No, medical students, just like any other professional, should be free to choose the area which they wish to work for. So I think that is very other correct because he has just put up any other professional. Why should they be exclusivized? So a very relevant and related point. So definitely a strong argument. Yes, this will help improve health infrastructure of rural areas. These areas are totally lacking in terms of health services. Now a very strong point because of this line. This is a good justification that is given. If this was not there, for example, if it says it will help improve health infrastructure, then just because it will improve health infrastructure, should you compulsorily serve? Doesn't make sense. But if you say they are totally lacking and it's just upon some stipulated amount of time, it's not forever, I think that makes sense. That is the reason why government should take any step like this. So both of them are justified. Answer will go as C. Next one, should it be made again a compulsory military training to each college student in India? No, this goes against the democratic right of an individual to choose his or her own program, which is fairly fine because you can't make compulsory and he's putting up the legal perspective of it. So strong relevance hai, relation bhi hai. Yes, this is the only way to build a strong and powerful nation. Now the problem again comes with the word only. Is he justifying how it is the only way? I don't have a problem, but is he justifying it? No, he's not. So also, did he mention what is the military training all about? A military training can be about bandage, providing first aid, etc., etc. So how are you saying that is the only way to build a more and powerful nation? I think that is bad. So definitely a weak argument, and this one is a strong. So answer to the eighth will go as 9. Should college open a second campus in some other city? Very interesting, very relevant to us. Should a college have a second campus in some other city? No, second campus will dilute their brand value and eliminate exclusivity. Now, if this is true, should this be a good enough reason to not open? Think about that. This is a very true argument. It is a true opinion. Let's say it's a strong opinion, but is it a strong argument? Just because it will dilute their brand value, will eliminate exclusivity, they should not open? I mean, opening of the second campus is about giving opportunities and having more seat. Why will it dilute the brand in the first place? So is he justifying it properly? I don't think so. So relevance, yes. Relation, be yes, but justification, no. Students should be given more options and opportunities. That is good, in order to dilute the effect of competition. Now that is a problem. The justification provided is flawed. You can create more options for people to not to dilute the competition, but provide more opportunities, providing more competitive people, right? It's not upon diluting the effect of competition. I think this agenda is a wrong justification given, and therefore weak. Then you can't justify the argument. So both of them weak. We go with Delhi. Look at the 10. Should there be a complete ban on the nuclear power station? Which station? Nuclear power station. No, most of the power stations use coal to produce power, and we need to replace coal with more efficient sources. But should I assume that the most efficient source is the nuclear? Should I assume or you should state it? I think you should state it. So it's relevant and related, but again, not justified. Nuclear energy is not safe. Okay. So it's alarming. That's what the whole point is. Okay. That it's alarming. And it can be used to make bombs. Why it is alarming? Because he's justifying because it can be used to make bombs, which can be catastrophic, which is fair enough. So I think properly justified argument. It now becomes relevant because if it is not safe, should we do it? No, we should not do it. So strong but weak. 10th is going to be Bombay. Next look at 11th. Should India play host to international sporting events like Commonwealth Games and Asian Games? So just given an example as well. That should India play host to international events? Yes, this will help India to develop its sports infrastructure. I think a direct relevance is there because government do such activities to promote sports to get to the fame of international standards, and then definitely these activities help develop the sports infrastructure for sure. So that's a very relevant and a related point. So we'll not look for justification. No, there are many other areas. Don't you think you should have rather said there is unemployment in your country and justify why unemployment needs more attention than sports event? But say that. Don't make me assume that there are many other areas, because I will assume that there are many other areas like unemployment. I mean, that is a big problem, right? So instead of saying a loose argument, saying many other areas that require fund and wasting huge sum is a criminal waste of resources, is a very strong opinion, but it's not a well justified, well rationalized argument, and therefore weak. So first is strong, second is weak. Option is A. Look at the 12th. Should betting be legalized? Wow. I think majority of you are going to say yes in the game of cricket. But let's look at the betting's utility. The utility of betting is just money at a shorter, earning a good amount of money at a very short span. So yes, this will make the earnings from the betting. So earnings automatically become relevant, which would be a source of revenue for the exchequer being the government treasury or the stock exchange or the government corpus. So definitely relevant and related point. So strong. No, if betting is legalized, cricket will no longer remain a gentleman's game. I think ridiculous, not even relevant, not even related, and not even properly justified. That what is gentleman's game has to do with betting, not justified. So weak, strong. Answer should go as A. Next, capital punishment be banned. Capital punishment is the death penalty. Capital punishment is based on the ideology that a person cannot be reformed. So you're quoting ideology now. So if this is true, that it is based on the ideology that it cannot be, should we ban it? Yes, absolutely ban it. So this is a strong argument. No, banning capital punishment will take away the deterrent effect of punishment. Now, this is a problematic one because it's not justified, because you are making me assuming that every deterrent, every punishment should be causing a deterrent, right? Or every crime should have certain extreme penalty like death. I think he missed to justify a point. If he would have written it like this, that banning capital punishment will take away the deterrent effect of punishment for certain heinous crimes. I think then you have justified it properly. That's for certain heinous crimes, there should be a deterrent like the punishment, like the capital punishment. I believe that could have definitely turned the story. So this is therefore weak, and therefore the first is strong. 13th will go as A. Okay, the second last question. Should political parties be allowed to participate in student union election? Understand, political parties, student union election. Yes, this will help political parties to involve students in the national decision-making process. Now, who's going to explain what the hell is national decision-making process? And can't we teach it? Don't you think this should be justified just because it will help political parties to involve students in national decision making process? Therefore, political parties should be allowed to participate in union elections. I mean, that doesn't make sense. I mean, and who's going to tell me that national decision making process is a damn very important activity? Right, and this is not the basic agenda. I don't think political parties' basic utility or the relevant criteria is to teach you how to nationally make decisions. So unjustified argument, definitely weak. No, objectives of the student election are very different from the objectives of the political party. I think that is a very, very relevant point. That if the two objectives of things are different, you should not mix them or mingle them. Strong. So first is weak, second is strong. Answer go as Bombay. And the last one, Indian university should adopt a grade system instead of current grade. So should Indian universities adopt grade system? Yes, this will bring the evaluation system of Indian universities at par with the international. So if this is the aim, should we do it? I think yes, we should do it. So strong. And no, it will be difficult to rank students when they are required to be shortlisted. So if it will be difficult to rank students when they are required to be shortlisted, should therefore we not adopt grade system? Strong. So we should not do it. So I think both of them are strong. So if this is true, this should not be done. If this is true, this should be done. So definitely a both important point, both strong point, and therefore C. So evaluate how much did you get it right. If your accuracy, if you've got a 7 or a 8 correct out of 15, I think you are definitely winning in this. It's the very first thing that you have done. I think by just a bit of more practice, you can achieve it. Still, rest assured that if this chapter has a more than 50% accuracy you are achieving, you'll be above your peers. So that's all from my side. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. I hope it was a valuable session. See you in the next video. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.